Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and spend some of your day with me and check the video out. Guys, today I want to have sort of a lengthy conversation, sort of a detailed conversation on how bass are changing as far as their behaviors, their patterns, their moods, their personalities, the lures they prefer. And guys, I have witnessed the last probably 3 or 4 years, I have witnessed the most profound change in bass as far as what they're doing that I've ever seen in 50 years. And I sort of want to talk about this. I think this is sort of worthy of a conversation, give you guys my opinions, and also maybe talk about some things you can do to keep catching bass during these changes. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, one quick thing I want to show you here. We are into August, and when I think about August bass fishing, you know, fishing's tough in August, but one of the funnest ways to catch bass that starts working pretty good in August is fishing a big buzz bait throughout all day long in the month of August. I mean, they'll hit a big buzzer literally all day. And guys, I want to show you this one right here, my favorite. This is the Mega Bass Jamaican Boa. This is a big buzz bait. It's got a huge blade on it, half-ounce buzz bait. It's a nice needle-coated needlepoint hook on it. Just a large, big profile buzz bait. And guys, you can take this Jamaican Boa and just cover water with it, man. Get back in those flat areas where those bluegills are spawning and just burn the bank and cover water all day long. Look for little shade pockets. It's just a really good way to catch them. So I'll put my Mega Bass Jamaican Boa buzzbait link, my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get one. But the big buzzbait is the key, like this big giant buzzbait. They will hammer the thing. Work it at like a medium fast retrieve. So hope that helps you guys catch a few there. Okay, I have, you know, we talk about bass movement behavior a lot on the channel here, but one of the things that I have noticed in every species of bass, smallmouth, largemouth, and spotted bass over the past 2 or 3 years is a radical change in the lure preferences they have, the areas that they're in, how they bite overall, the patterns. All this stuff is changing big time right now. And I want to talk a little bit about why that is, in my opinion. And really, it's something that people don't talk enough about. So we're going to get into that. Now, first of all, one of the things that we have to realize is that all the creatures on this planet are in this constant evolutionary process. Humans are, bass are, every creature on the planet. We are in this constant evolutionary cycle to adapt to our environment. You know, as our environment changes and as adaptations are necessary, you know, we evolve different characteristics, you know, on a constant level. Bass are one of those creatures. Bass have been on this planet, you know, a lot of scientists say over 3 million years, and throughout the course of that 3 million years, their environments have changed. They've had to adapt to it, and they're in that process right now. One of the things I've always talked about with bass is how they learn to not bite certain lures very quickly. You know, it's almost like it's ingrained in their DNA. And I always use the example, guys. I got my thing here. Here's my favorite example of what I'm talking about. And before we get into the rest of this bait right here, this is an old hellbender right here. Now, a lot of you guys heard me talk about this. You're saying, oh, not the hellbender again. But guys, I can't tell you how effective this bait was back in the 1970s for catching big bass. I mean, I personally have witnessed, like, I don't know, 20 bass between 7 to 9 pounds at Table Rock Lake in the 70s on this big hellbender right now. It was a staple. I mean, everybody threw it. Everybody caught a lot of fish on it. Guys, I can promise you right now, if you take this hellbender on a heavily fished public body of water like Table Rock Lake, you could throw this thing for a month now and not catch any. Now, why is that? And it's not because they get conditioned to hellbenders, because I can promise you guys, there's been 3 or 4 generations or more of bass that have never seen this lure. They're not conditioned to something because they've never seen it, yet they will not bite it now. So when we're talking about the evolutionary process within a bass, it's almost like during that period where everybody was throwing this thing and catching big bass, it's almost like there was some type of a collective consciousness that was ingrained in their DNA that told them this is not something you want to bite. If you bite this thing, you're going to die, and the species is not going to continue. So it's almost like there's this innate intelligence that bass pick up on certain lure profiles out there. Now, this also goes over to areas that the fish are in. Bass are not using the same type of water that they've traditionally used for, 50 years on a lot of the lakes across the country. A lot of this has to do with fishing pressure. Fishing pressure they basically have taken, we know where so many good areas are now, as far as, with all the information available, GPS mapping, we know where all the creek channel intersections are, all the drop-offs, all the ditches, all the humps, all the rock transitions, all these key areas that were prime habitat for bass in the past. A lot of these bass are not using that anymore. And that's why you see so many bass that have just moved offshore, and they're just roaming out in open water that people are catching, spotlight for bass with. They're not on their traditional structures as an adaptation process. Now, in correlation with this, you do have some type of climate change issues. Man-made climate change is responsible for this disruption in the entire food chain, as far as when you have, different type of, weather patterns that are consistent, that are changing algae blooms and plankton and microorganisms and, the smaller, perch and minnows that feed on stuff up to the bigger food chain. And all this stuff takes place at different times of the year now. Say for example that, an algae bloom or, something like that, or some type of a nutrient, some type of an effect from some type of a nutrient in a lake takes place normally like in April, and maybe now it's in March or something. This is part of the thing that throws the food cycle off as far as the man-made climate change issues. So you take this in correlation, you take the fishing pressure, you take, climate change issues, you take the fact that bass are in this constant evolutionary process of survival, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing bass just completely changing everything that we thought they would, adapt to. Let me give you guys another prime example. One of my favorite ways to use to fish was I used to look forward every year to go up north to fish for smallmouth in our tournaments. We had a lot of different lakes up there that we went, regularly during the fall time of the year. We'd go through all the Great Lakes, St. Clair, Erie, Ontario, St. Lawrence River, Lake Champlain, all those type of lakes. Now, in the past, before, that was a purely a power fishing deal. You went out there and you threw topwater lures, you threw jerk baits, you threw spinner baits. It was a power fishing smallmouth, situation, and that's how all the tournaments were won. Most of the tournaments used to get won like on spinner baits for those big smallmouth up there. Now, guys, if you go up there in 2025, if you're not throwing some little weenie worm drop shot, little, leech looking bait or something out there, you're not even going to make a check. You go up there right now, you go to Lake Champlain and you put on a big spinner bait like it used to win all the tournaments up there, and you see how you compete against the weenie worm and drop shot and crowd up there. You're going to get embarrassed by that. So this process has changed as far as the lures the bass prefer, the areas that they're in. It's an adaptation. Bass are having some type of they're in the middle of this they're in a period of rapid acceleration in their evolutionary process to survive to all the challenges that they have on them right now with the fishing pressure and climate change issues and, everything else that goes along with it. So given that, it's like, what can you do? How can you adapt to this situation? So first of all, you've got two different roads you can go down. You can go down the road of technology, which you're very well aware of my opinion on that, or you can continue using traditional techniques. You have to sort of decide which is more valuable to yourself. Would you rather see instead of getting 40 bites a day burning the spinner bait, and now maybe you go up there and get 5 or 6 bites, would you rather watch a 4-pound smallmouth flush a spinner bait an inch under the water when you're burning it 5 or 6 times a day, or would you rather go out there and get 30 bites a day weenie worming around looking at a spotlight in the unit? I mean, that's the sort of the decision you have to make. What my opinion is on that. But anyway, guys, this is something that, has been brought about by humans. I mean, the whole climate change situation, the whole fishing pressure situation, the whole, lure technology situation. This is sort of a problem we created ourselves. Because I can promise you, if Lake Champlain in 2025 had not seen the fishing pressure that it had seen when we first went there, like in 1990, you would still be able to catch them on those traditional techniques. So it's almost like our love for the sport has also made it more difficult a lot of times, and it's changing the sport in a lot of different ways, not for the better, but it's just a reality of the situation. I mean, it just sort of is what it is. It's frustrating, for a lot of people that have seen how it used to be versus what it is right now. But I don't know. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. It's something that I've been really been aware of. But the thing that I'm most fascinated by, guys, by far, is how fast bass are evolving right now to not make mistakes. They are. It's like they are geniuses. It's like that's how they've been here for 3 million years. They don't make mistakes. They don't bite a hellbender for decades and decades and decades like they used to be. They're smarter than that. And people don't give bass credit enough for how smart they are. They try to equate human intelligence with a bass's intelligence, but a bass is a master of their environment. They're a master of their domain, and that demands respect. Any creature that is a master of their domain demands respect. Man is one of the few creatures out there that is not a master of their domain. Take, for example, the Native Americans have lived here in what is now America for over 30,000 years untouched. It's like what our environment in the United States, what is now the United States, looked like 30,000 years ago. It also looked like 500 years ago. It's only been with our ignorance and our greed and our apathy that we have completely transformed what is now the United States into something that is just like unrecognizable to what it has been for the past 30,000 years, which is not sustainable. We are on a path of insustainability about our just greed for getting bigger and bigger and growing and growing. We're going to wind up making ourselves extinct through our own greed and ignorance. Why bass, they've been here for 3 million years because they live in harmony with their environment, which we don't. Humans do not live in harmony with their environment because of their own greed and stupidity. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about it. Be curious to hear. We'll talk later.